We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Right. Monty. Monty has been looking at the holiday deals for 4K TVs and was pretty set on the Vizio P55C1 for $1,000 until he read CNET's review in which David Katzmeyer discusses how the different sizes of P-series TVs have different refresh rates and different panels. The 55-inch uses a IPS panel, while the others use a vertical alignment panel. David's, this is the reviewer's opinion, is to avoid the IPS panel. So Monty looked at the 50-inch C1 model, which was $800, and knows that it only has a 60 hertz refresh rate, while the others are 120 hertz capable. Monty watches a lot of hockey, and it looks great on his 10-year-old Plasma, which the new TV would replace, and not so great on his 3-year-old Insignia LCD TV in the bedroom. So with that in mind, A, should he avoid the 55-inch because of the IPS panel? I'm going to go with yes, but I'm going to see what Rob says.
I would agree. In-plane switching panels, their advantage is that they tend to have a wider viewing angle. You can go farther to the left or right of dead ahead center before they start to really shift in color or lose their contrast. But honestly, they're still not fantastic in that department. Yeah. And for that slightly wider viewing angle, you give up a whole bunch of black level. Yeah. The blacks look gray on them. So, yeah, I would avoid the IPS panels unless you have a real need to have a slightly wider viewing angle. I just don't think it's worth it.
If you're putting them in a sports bar, I think that's fine. You can have those. Yeah. But if you're not living in a sports bar, I would not look at them. So should he avoid the 50-inch because of the 60 hertz refresh rate? And with this one, I'm going to say no. I don't think that you need to. The 120 hertz and all these up sampling things, a lot of times we talk about the soap opera effect. We also talk about how good these things are because the signal that's coming from them is 60 hertz. So they're doing the 60 hertz. So by doing 120, they're having to add something. Now, what are they adding? Are they adding a black flash in between each one? Right. Well, then that's not so bad. That's actually probably pretty good. But are they trying to interpolate from the frame that they've got to the next frame they're going to get and saying, okay, I know the next two frames, what would be in between there, and I'll put pixels there. That's where you end up with your hockey looking like, I think that man's lead just went the wrong direction all of a sudden for a second there, but now it's okay.
I didn't know hockey was played with 3 to 8 pucks.
I thought it was only one. I thought it was only one. Look at them. They're everywhere. It's like contrails out there.
Yeah, you'll notice that all of these ones in Vizio's lineup that are a 60 hertz refresh rate panel, in their spec sheet, they say effective 120 hertz refresh, and that's because they're flashing the backlight. So the panel itself is updating every 1/60th of a second, but the backlight is flashing 120 times a second, which gives you that sort of in-between black frame. The way an LCD works is it's sample and hold. So whatever the pixel is, that comes up, it holds that for the duration and then changes to the next pixel. Well, if you do that 120 times, but all you're doing is doubling the image because that's the only way to avoid a soap opera effect, it doesn't really have a big impact. Flashing the backlight actually makes a bigger difference. So I don't think the 60 hertz refresh rate is something to be worried about. He was like, oh, my Insignia is a 60 hertz refresh rate. Like, that's a different matter.
Yes, yeah. Let's not just say because it's the 60 hertz refresh rate there. I mean, yeah. If somebody said to me, "Oh, well, I have a Westinghouse and it doesn't look very good at all," I'm like, "You're right. You don't even have to tell me what you've got. I mean, they can look okay, but it's just." It's not the highest quality of TV.
We don't want to attribute a certain look to one particular spec because that's not the case. That would be like saying, I have an Insignia LCD, I don't think it looks great, therefore all LCDs are bad.
Right.
Like, that would be a gross overstatement.
It's also like saying that all Insignia TVs are bad too. There's no reason to say that either. It's just, there's certainly something going on there. So
it's not just that it's 60 hertz.
So at this point now, these next questions are going to become a little bit moot because we said the 50 hertz was okay, and that allows him to buy the thing he wants anyways.
Sure.
But we'll still answer them. In order to get a VA panel and a higher refresh rate, you'd have to step up the 65-inch P series model for $1,800. So he went from $1,000.
It's down to $1,500 at the moment.
He went from $1,000 down to $800, up to now I guess $1,500.
$1,500 now, yeah.
Which is more than he wants to spend right now. And for $1,800 is what he's saying. But $1,500, he could get the 55-inch LG OLED B6P, which would be better than the Vizios, right?
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In probably almost every, except for the brightness, and almost in every conceivable way, if you're gonna spend $1,800, you should definitely get the OLED.
Actually, even in the brightness, because the Vizios aren't hitting a full 1,000 nits either. So yeah.
All right, so if he's keeping the price down, there's also the Vizio M series, and that series is the 60-inch, uses the IPS panel, but both the 55 and the 50 inches use 60 hertz panels. He could potentially afford the 65-inch M series, which would get him a VA panel with 120 hertz refresh rate, but he saw at Best Buy right beside OLED, and he wasn't super impressed. It's like, I saw the Honda right next to that Ferrari, and that Honda looked like garbage. Okay. Well, doesn't really seem fair, but all right, I understand what you're saying there. Okay, so he's saying he cares about picture quality more than screen size. He's upgrading from a 42-inch plasma, so any of these are larger. That 55 inches really seems about right to him. So his mind is the 50-inch P series versus the 55-inch M series versus the 55-inch OLED B6, which is going to be the best balance of picture quality, screen size, and price. Well, I mean, I think you could go with the one you actually wanted at the very beginning here. Was that one?
The 50-inch P series.
Yeah. That $800.
Yeah, I mean, it does have... so over the M series, what the P series is getting you is more zones of local dimming, twice the number of zones of local dimming. That's certainly a help. It does have a wider color gamut, so that's nice when you're watching your HDR content. It has more HDMI 2.0 inputs, because the M series actually only gives you one HDMI 2.0 input with HDCP 2.2 copy protection. The P series gives you like 4. So there are definitely some advantages to the P series. If 50 inches is large enough for you, then it kind of is the sweet spot amongst all of these, because it's definitely cheap. It's half the price of the OLED, but it's a little bit nicer picture, a little bit nicer feature set than the 55-inch M series, but you're giving up a little bit of screen size. So all of these, you're giving up a little bit of something to get something else.
Or in the case
if you
of
can afford the OLED,
you're giving up a lot of money to get all this things.
You're giving up money. That's right. Yeah, to get the best picture of all, plus the slightly larger screen size. So yeah, but I think that sort of lays out. The M series is really, it's a tremendous value. Like if someone goes, I can get a 55-inch for that much money, and it's HDR10 and Dolby Vision and still local dimming. It's like, yeah, it's a really nice TV. It's hard to say that's a bad decision, but each of the others gives you something by giving up something. Yeah.
So he says, he's got a lot of questions here. When it comes to OLED, is there anything to be concerned about, such as burn-in or image retention? I haven't heard anything about burn-in with them at all.
Yeah, it technically can happen.
Well, it can happen with anything if you abuse the heck out of it. I mean, that's just the nature of the piece. So and if you don't believe me, just go to any place that any store that has video up all the time, and be there when they turn it off, and you will see, if they're watching, it's a sports bar or whatever, and they've got like the little ticker thing across the bottom. You're gonna see something, man. You're gonna see some image retention as it goes along. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. But I have never, unless you do something that, if you're like I guess my mother-in-law used to be. She used to watch like endless CNN. It would just always be on in the background. Right. And so that there's the bars on the side and the thing on the bottom, and the logo where the logo is. If you have that on 8 hours a day, every day, for the life of the TV, I don't care what it is, you're going to get some burn-in. You just are. That's just what it is. Or you're going to see you might not be burn-in, but you're going to see some differences in those areas, for sure. Yeah. So I'm not particularly concerned about OLED.
No, they seem to be about on par with the last generation plasmas.
Yeah.
Which was Largely, it's not a concern. We can't say it's utterly impossible.
Right.
If you abuse them, they can still form some permanent image retention. But yeah, as long as you're the least bit careful about not leaving one bright thing on the same spot on the screen all day, every day, you should be fine.
I think I was looking at like LG's website, right? And they specifically said something about burn-in. And it's like, like how it's almost impossible to burn it in, and then there's a little asterisk, and you look at the bottom, it's like, if you do, contact us, and we will either
you can't say it's impossible.
We will either replace it or repair it if you do through normal use. And I'm sorry, dude. Just, having Sports Center on 24 hours a day is not normal use. That's not normal. I don't care if it's normal for you. It's not normal for the rest of the world. So not lastly, guys, it really isn't lastly. He's up to G. No, he's up to F.
H?
F, yeah. We're on F right now. So what should he do to calibrate the TV in his own home? Put it in movie/cinema mode. What are the warm settings, if it has that option? To turn the sharpness usually off.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
In both of these cases, the Vizios or these LG OLEDs, they're remarkably good as long as you put them in their cinema mode. When you go to their HDR mode, you want to use HDR standard. They might default to HDR bright or HDR vivid. They give you options. You do want to go to HDR standard. That gives you the proper electro-optical transfer function. It gives you the proper rise from black to white according to the spec.
Most TVs these days, I mean, I hate to say this, I know Ray's probably whatever, but most TVs, most displays, most projectors, I think, of any quality that you're buying, if you spend 5 minutes going through the settings and switching them to something other than, vivid dynamic mode,
or even standard, unfortunately,
or even
is
standard,
the name
right,
that's often there.
You will get yourself, I will conservatively say 90% of the way to having a really decent picture. 90% to, like, the calibrator is going to come in and they're going to do some stuff that's going to make it better, for sure.
Yes,
without a doubt.
Yeah,
but it used to be
he's not going to pay for a calibration.
So it used to be, dude. You might, depending on your TV, you might be like, I mean, you literally can't do anything to it to make it look any better than it is, other than going into service menus, which, if you don't know what you're doing, you can seriously mess your TV up. So we're in a really good time where most TVs come out, and you get yourself 85-90% of the way there with doing just a quick Google search on what settings or ask us.
Yeah, like over on Home Theater Geeks, they did an episode where they spent the entire thing calibrating one of the LG OLED TVs. And literally out of the box, the delta errors were like 4 at the worst. Now, technically, if you get all the delta errors under 3 or 3 or under, it will be imperceptible to your eye. That's always the aim. But it was like most of the colors, most of the grayscale, most of the EOTF or gamma was like 2, 1, and then there'd be like one little point on the graph where it got all the way up to 4. So essentially, it was imperceptible.
Yeah.
And it's like, could they improve upon that to get everything under 3?
Yes.
Yes, they could. But it was like, it's so barely even worth it. So that's a really nice thing. That's a fantastic. It's not so great for calibrators.
Calibrators,
like to be more justified because they do need to make their money. But
they
honestly,
do other things. They could do other things
and once you've done that, if you get one of the setup discs, I like Spears and Munsell HD Benchmark, but the Disney Wow disc is a great tool if you're not totally familiar with it. It'll walk you through it because you do want to set your brightness and contrast levels. That's about the only thing you actually need to set anymore, because that depends on your room lighting, right? So that's going to be unique to your situation, but that's about it. Get it into the cinema or theater, or if it has an ISF night mode, put it in any of those. When it goes to HDR, put it in HDR standard. Set it to the warm or warm 2 color temperature. After that, get your brightness and contrast set via one of those setup discs, and you're really about as much as you need to do on your own.
After you've done it a couple times, this is a 5-minute operation.
Yeah, it's not bad anymore.
Yeah. So, an indication on how much the Oppo UDP-203 Ultra HD Blu-ray player is going to cost. I'm guessing, without clicking on the link that's right there, $500. Am I close?
So they're saying $499.
Ah!
That's the target.
Hey,
that's the target. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
So over at Audioholics, they had a bit of a more in-depth write-up than a lot of the places. They were saying it's still going to have the feature where it has an HDMI input, so you can send other things through it, but they're not using a completely separate video processing chip anymore. In the 103 and the 105 Blu-ray players, they had like a separate chip to do the video processing on the HDMI input. Now it's all going through one single chip, but they're saying the performance now it's about the same. So that's very nice. This 203 Ultra HD Blu-ray player doesn't look like it's going to be any more expensive than the 103 Blu-ray player. It's going to be $500.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, it uses a Windows 7 Media Center HTPC with a cable card tuner. Mm-hmm. With ATSC 3.0 on the horizon, has there been any news or rumors about how it might work with HTPCs? Now, I did a little research. I watched a video on Broadband TV News, which I have to say that Rob sent me the link to so I could watch it. It seems to me, and I might be completely wrong, oh God, it seems to me like it's going to be backwards compatible with these cable cards, but it's going to allow you to have like a tuner like that you connect to your network, and then you can network it to any device in your house, including your tablets and your phones and everything, which is kind of cool because I kind of want one of those now because that makes life a lot easier. You can watch it on everything.
Yeah, so it's not going to be backwards compatible with current cable cards.
Sorry.
Because the ATSC is the whole ATSC 3.0 is a whole new thing. You need all new tuners to be able to work with it. It's not backwards compatible with any existing equipment. You need all new stuff to pick it up. And you more or less have to be connected to the internet for it to work as well, because it's sending the largest amount of data, the actual picture and sound, that's all being broadcast over the air, but all of the control stuff and bringing in secondary audio programs and object-based audio and all kinds of other stuff, that's all being sent via internet. It's not being sent over the air in the main broadcast. So yeah, the solution they seem to have in mind is having essentially a network tuner that sits on your network, has the antenna to accept the over-the-air portion, then of course is connected to your modem as well. So that seems to be their solution for putting it on any device that isn't a TV with an ATSC 3.0 tuner built into it. But of course the question is, will that allow you to record it? Because I'm sure what he's using Windows 7 Media Center for with a cable card is as his DVR.
Right, sure.
He's using that to record television shows, and when you have one of these network tuners that's going to be then basically repeating the signal via Wi-Fi, I don't really think the idea is to allow you to record it, because they just ratified all the watermark stuff for both the audio and the video, which of course is part of copy protection. I think the likelihood of being able to just record the Wi-Fi signal is a little bit low. If I'm being honest, I don't think that's really what they want you to do.
They're going to have some sort of DVR functionality on there. They don't want to get rid of their DVRs.
Well, that's just, I mean, the idea seems to be to head towards like some kind of cloud DVR, where a service provider, you will pay them a monthly fee and they will act as your online DVR, and then you can access your recordings on any device that can access their network. That seems to be what they're sort of aiming
towards
for.
A cable company again. That's what we're trying to get away from in the first place.
I know, but the whole thing is they want to get away from cable card, like the cable companies want to get away from cable card. They want to move towards an app-based system, so you'll have your little Roku set-top device or something built directly into your TV, or an app that you can download onto your computer, and that's how you will then access all of this ATSC 3.0 stuff, is through some sort of app. That seems to be the future they want to head towards, which means if you want to watch a previous program, it will have to be recorded by that service. I mean, essentially you're getting Netflix, right? Just like for television. That seems to be the idea, but the idea is that you're going to have to pay for it, that it's not going to actually be a free thing where you can record it, and there's a whole bunch of copy protection built in. So my honest prediction is that there's not going to be a nice, simple solution where you're going to be able to record ATSC 3.0 easily onto your computer. Cable card is going away with ATSC 1.0. So I think that's my prediction anyway.
We shall see.
Yes.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.